GMGM. This is Sam, NFT Statistics, with your Proof Daily NFT Countdown, bringing you the charts, pictures, and stories that matter most every weekday. Now, it's been 4 days since we did a show, so there's a whole lot that's gone on. Going to try to sum it all up into 4 stories here. There's some that I'm missing, but we'll pick up on those later in the week. First, let's just catch up on the macro in NFTs. If you look at the volume over the past 4 days since we last did a show, it's been pretty slow. You've had, we had a big pickup in volume when Blur started Airdrop 3. You can see where that is. But since then, this is basically as low volumes as we've had. The other problem is that floor prices have fallen pretty sharply. So the large cap PFP index is down about 12% over the past 10 days. It's been a pretty gradual fall, but going down basically every single day. If you look at the mid cap index, it's been even steeper fall, a little bit more than 12% in the past 10 days. So overall, floor prices have just been going lower. The obvious question on everyone's mind is, what about if we measure this in US dollars? And this is kind of interesting. These charts look entirely different in US dollars. Funny how that works. When ETH goes up 30% over a couple of weeks, the US dollar charts look a lot better. So this is the mid-cap index in US dollars. Crazy. I mean, it goes from this to this. The US dollar the Ethereum gains have offset a lot of the drops that we've seen in ETH-based NFT prices. This is the large cap index in US dollars. So overall, past 10 days, NFT prices going down in ETH terms, ETH prices obviously going up, and they basically offset each other. Second story, VV checks. Now, this is, I think, one of the most interesting stories going on in NFTs, and it's all really played out over the past couple weeks. Why is it interesting? Look at the red line in this chart. Okay, what this red line looks at is the average price per sale every single day since it launched on January 3rd. The blue bars are the total number of sales per day. So we've had pretty high volume, but the floor has basically gone from less than 0.01 ETH at the very beginning to 0.32 ETH. Now, what's the story behind VV checks? Okay, Jack Butcher is the artist, and he tweeted this picture that said, "This artwork may or may not be notable." Obviously, it's a play on Twitter and their blue check system, where they say if you have a blue check, but you weren't verified before, you may or may not be a notable person. So it was a play on that, kind of funny. And what he did was he turned it into an open edition. Okay, now the open edition was only $8 to mint, just like $8 to get your blue check. What ended up happening was you had 16,000 people mint this. Okay, again, for the people in the back, 16,000 mints of this for $8 each. And it was a CC0 project. So once you had all that interest that picked up, and he was tweeting 100 people, 200. I don't think he ever expected it to get this big. It's a CC0 project. So you saw other people build checks projects. Here you see one for Chimpers. Here you see a CryptoPunks checks version. You had people making games based on checks. So there was all this energy around the project, and the artist, Jack Butcher, decided, I have to do something that's a little bit more fun than simply just having these checks exist. So what he ended up doing was deciding that there would be a burn mechanism where you can burn a certain number into getting a different number of checks. So if you burn 2, you can get down to 40. If you burn more, you can get to 20, you can get to 10, 5, 4, all the way down to 1 check. It would take 128 editions to create to really get down to 1 single check. And then the kicker is that if you get, I don't even know the number, but if you get a certain number of checks together, you can end up with one of these black checks. Now we have 16,000 right now. If the number of people burn that would be necessary to burn to get all the way down to the black checks, there can only be 3 black checks total. So it's this really crazy burn mechanism that takes you from starting with the 80 in it to burning a few to get to 40 to 20, all the way down to 1. And then a number of ones can come together to get a single black check. So all sorts of gamification going on here. Super interesting to see. And you're just seeing people stack these things like crazy. One of the more interesting dynamics I think we've seen in NFTs for a long time. Story number 3, 6529 meme cards continue to rocket. I just think that 6529, what's going on there, is one of the most interesting things in NFTs right now. More and more supply keeps coming to market at meme cards. And just like we saw with art blocks, people are eating them up. Every time more supply comes, that creates a ton of value for holders, but the other ones maintain their value. Let's look at a couple charts here that show that. What this chart here is basically the overall market cap. So I divided this chart into the 1st to the 10th meme card, which is the blue, the 11th to the 20th, et cetera, et cetera. And what you can see is pretty much everything is rising pretty sharply across the board. The other thing that we saw was these gradients. We saw a gradient which sold for 50 ETH. Now, why are gradients selling for so much? There are only 100 gradients, okay? And gradients, literally 2 months ago, were selling for 10 ETH. We had one sell for 50 ETH. The floor right now is 56 ETH. But what gradients do is they essentially likely get you on the allow list for essentially every single card, okay? Every time a new card comes to market, the price to mint is 0.06529. They've been going immediately to 0.5, 0.6, and the team is building all sorts of different mechanisms by which they decide who gets on the allow list. And they're doing different things to keep people guessing and buying different cards and adding a lot of randomness to it. But gradients have been a consistency where gradients automatically have been able to mint essentially every single card so far. So it's no surprise that these have really rocketed in price. You had you've had two sell in the 40 to 50 range in the past couple of days. There was a new drop yesterday. This one by Mind's Eye. There were 999 additions, and the floor pretty quickly went to over 0.8 ETH. Okay, so you can see just how much people who have that allow list spot are very quickly making a lot of money. The other thing I think is notable in 6529 is the freedom to transact. This Nakamoto card is the most rare card in the collection. There are only 300 of them, and you've recently seen a sale at 24.69 ETH. The floor is now 25 ETH. This is up from early January. These were selling below 10 ETH. Okay, so 2 weeks ago, below 10 ETH, and we just had a sale for 25 ETH. Puts into perspective just how much this collection is completely on fire. Last thing I want to talk about, just wanted to go over a few of the biggest sales of the weekend. The first, the biggest sale there was, 395 ETH for this robot 4-trait ape. What do I mean by robot? It's robot fur, robot eye glasses. Those VR glasses in Apeland are called robot glasses. I think there are only 5 or 6 that have this combination, but apes with just 4 traits, these pretty basic, simple apes, always trade at a premium. I think this was a very rich price. It is a very unique ape. The buyer, nobody.eth, has just been on a buying spree. He also bought a coda for something, I think 185, a mega coda for 185 ETH over the weekend. He recently bought a zombie punk. So this guy is picking up grails left and right. Congrats to him. Congrats to the seller. Interesting sale. Profits by Otherworld for 44 ETH. Now this I picked out because it was the most expensive super rare sale of the weekend. Otherworld, you can see here, has had some big sales. He had one for 66 ETH, one for 80 ETH to 6529. So he's had big sales, but still, even if you've had higher before, 44 ETH is a big sale for one of one on super rare. So congrats to him. And then one other story I kind of wanted to mix with a purchase with an outside story. This Doodle coffee sold for 24 ETH to Austin Hurwitz. Why do I mention it? Austin recently announced that he is joining the Doodles team as the head of business development. So congrats to Austin. Congrats on this coffee Doodle. Another coffee Doodle sold for 29 ETH. So a little bit of action there. Doodles was one of the, I talked earlier about how floor prices across large caps, mid caps in the PFP land had gone down over the past 10 days. Doodles has been bucking that trend. The floor has risen from, call it 6.5 ETH at the beginning of the year to just shy of 80. So that is one project that has been doing pretty well, kind of stands out in the crowd. So that's all for today. Did I miss stories? One of the things I love about doing this show is I have people pinging me, sending me DMs about what stories I should be including. That's how I learn, and that's what makes it so I can bring people the stories that are interesting going on out there. So if you have stories, feel free to DM me. If you like this show, like it below on YouTube or tweet about it. Really appreciate the more virality we can get. We will be back tomorrow. We will be back every single weekday that is not a public holiday. 3, 4, 5 stories as fast as we can bring them to you. Have a good day.